Tonight, the hunt for a stable economy. The new Chancellor shreds Liz Truss's financial plans. So who is running the government?
Growth requires confidence and stability, and the United Kingdom will always pay its way.
Also making the headlines, the First Minister sets out her economic vision for an independent Scotland with a promise to return to the EU and introduce their own currency. A record-breaking cyclist speaks about the moment she was left for dead by a hit-and-run driver.
Kilmarnock manager Derek McInnes urges his team to seize their cup chance and end a decade-long wait for a Hampden Park semi-final.
I'm Kellyanne Woodland in Edinburgh.
And I'm Emma Cameron in Glasgow. This is the STV News at 6.
Good evening. The Prime Minister called opponents of her financial plans the Anti-Growth Coalition. But today, just weeks later, almost all of those plans have been torn up by her new Chancellor.
Jeremy Hunt has made the changes after the disastrous reaction from the markets to the mini-budget set out by his predecessor. Tonight, it adds to the question marks over whether it's him or Liz Truss who's in charge. Here's our senior reporter, Gordon Cree.
Morning, Chancellor. Which measures will you be announcing today?
Jeremy Hunt headed for work today, having had the weekend to do his sums. His conclusion that the tax-cutting plans so central to Liz Truss's growth agenda, which so spooked the markets when Kwasi Kwarteng announced them just 24 days ago, are simply unaffordable.
Growth requires confidence and stability, and the United Kingdom will always pay its way. This government will therefore take whatever tough decisions are necessary to do so.
While cutting the rate of national insurance will go ahead, he's scrapped plans for cutting income tax in England and Wales. The support on energy bills, which was to last for 2 years, will now run till April 2023, while a review takes place of how best to help those in the most need. And a proposed freeze on alcohol duty now won't happen, raising the prospect of higher prices for Scotch whisky. The global economic cycle means interest rates were already rising, but the reaction to the mini-budget saw the price of a mortgage spike. It's all linked to words we've heard a lot about recently: gilts, bonds and yields. The new Chancellor will be hoping his decisions help bring all that under control, or millions of us could be facing a whole lot of pain. In Kilmarnock, the voters' verdict.
They've not got faith in what the previous person has brought in, so that means they've probably not discussed it and looked into the implications of everything properly.
They don't have the worries that we have. They don't have to worry how to pay their bills. You just don't know, there's that many different changes, you don't ken what's what odd, and you know, but I do have a bit of faith in them.
I now call the Leader of the Opposition, Keir Starmer, with his urgent question.
The economic crisis is now a leadership crisis, the drama playing out on the floor of the Commons.
So now it's time for leaders to lead. But where is the Prime Minister? Hiding away, dodging questions, scared of her own shadow. The lady's not for turning up.
Where on earth is the Prime Minister? And if she doesn't even have the backbone to show up here today, is there really any point in her showing up here again?
But Liz Truss wasn't there to answer. Stepping in, one of those tipped to wear her crown.
I can't disclose the reasons. I have asked if I can. I'm being very genuine with the House on this matter. I hope that she'll be able to join us a bit later on this afternoon.
Eventually she did, ahead of the Chancellor speaking to the House.
So I now call the Chancellor of the Exchequer. Chancellor.
He warned again there will be difficult decisions ahead. Tonight at Westminster it seems increasingly likely it's not Liz Truss making them. Gordon Cree, STV News.
OK, to Westminster now, and our special correspondent Bernard Ponsonby. Bernard, Jeremy Hunt has been decisive, but will this new package of measures fly electorally?
Well, the statement was designed to calm the markets. It's substantially done that. It was also designed to calm the nerves of jittery Conservative backbenchers, and it seemed to have done that as well. But for the moment, you have to say, from the point of view of the average voter, they'll be asking, will I be better off or worse off as a consequence of the changes that he has announced? And it's impossible not to conclude that they will be worse off. Why? Because Liz Truss had said that help with energy bills was going to run for 2 years. It will now only run until April of next year, raising the possibility that middle income earners might get less help at the very time when their mortgage bills will be going up. So this may well be fiscally prudent, but it comes at enormous political risk, because at the end of the day, if it goes down badly with Conservative voters, there could be a longer term electoral price to be paid.
And where do you assess the position of the Prime Minister tonight, Bernard?
Well, she quite simply has no authority. There was an emergency question asked by the Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer at 3:30. She wasn't in the chamber. The Leader of the House had to answer it. Rumours that she was meeting Sir Graham Brady in Downing Street. He chairs the influential Backbench Committee. She is Prime Minister, but Prime Minister in name only. All of the U-turns forced upon her by the markets, the Bank of England having to intervene to shore up the gilt markets, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, the new Chancellor of the Exchequer, effectively giving the last rites to a set of policies that Liz Truss has campaigned for many, many months. There's a familiar echo in the air here at Westminster tonight. It can be found in the same echo of Theresa May's premiership and Boris Johnson's premiership. The question is being asked, how long can she survive? My gut instinct, not very long.
All right, Bernard, you'll keep us updated. Thanks very much.
Well, shortly after the Chancellor made his statement, the First Minister set out her economic case for independence. Nicola Sturgeon said Scotland would continue to use the pound and move to its own currency as soon as practicable.
The First Minister also said an independent Scotland would look to join the EU and there would be physical checks on goods at the border with England. Opposition parties say key questions remain unanswered. Our political correspondent Ewan Petrie now reports.
Nicola Sturgeon is aiming to build the economic case for independence. For many, it was the decisive issue in the 2014 referendum. At the launch of a paper outlining her proposals, the First Minister began with an attack on the turmoil caused at Westminster.
To say that this is now a UK government and a Prime Minister without a shred of credibility is an understatement. Indeed, it is perhaps a sign of how badly broken UK politics is that the Prime Minister's resignation has not already been tendered.
The First Minister said she would negotiate a fair settlement on debt and assets. An independent Scotland would seek to join the European Union. That would mean physical border checks on goods between England and Scotland. And she set out her plans for the currency.
We confirm that the policy of the Scottish Government is to establish a Scottish pound. We would seek to do this as soon as practicable. The precise timing would be determined not by a fixed timetable, but by a set of objective requirements and criteria, guided by advice from the Central Bank and subject to a decision by Parliament in the overall interests of the country.
However, Nicola Sturgeon said it would not be responsible to set a timetable for the transition to the new currency. And she said more detail on pensions would be announced at a later date.
At this stage, can you tell us who will take on the liability for paying those pensions and how that would work?
The Scottish Government, we said that in 2014. I have said that in recent months in the context of another choice on independence. The Scottish Government will be responsible for paying the pensions of those with state pensions in an independent Scotland.
Opposition parties say several issues still need to be addressed.
I think they're very stuck in not being able to answer some really key questions about currency, about pensions, about a hard border, about the trading situation, the fiscal deficit, and that has huge implications for people's wages, for jobs, for savings and investment.
Some of these points are really dry and technical, but actually, as we found out in recent weeks, these dry technical points can sometimes have big implications for people's mortgages, for their bills, and that's why I think these plans are so irresponsible.
Further papers and issues, including EU membership and trade, are expected in the coming months.
Well, Ewan joins us now. And Ewan, how far does this go to providing answers on the economy?
Well, if the past few weeks have shown us anything, it's just how crucial fiscal credibility is. And this paper sets out exactly how Nicola Sturgeon hopes to achieve that in an independent Scotland. 108 pages, which she says openly addresses some of the key issues on the economy. But what it also does is underline some of those that still need to be answered. We're told that some will be addressed in papers of the future, but one of the issues facing the First Minister is that some simply cannot be fully answered until the negotiations that would take place following a yes vote in a referendum. And what was also clear today was the fact that Nicola Sturgeon doesn't want to be tied down to any strict timetable, for example, on exactly when Scotland would meet the criteria to rejoin the European Union. Now, as you would expect, opposition parties say that is simply not good enough. They're demanding more detail now, or at least before any vote takes place.
OK, Ewan, many thanks for that. To other news, and a record-breaking cyclist who's been seriously injured in a hit and run says she's disgusted by the actions of the driver who left her for dead. Christina Mackenzie was knocked off her bike near the Kippen roundabout in Stirlingshire on the 27th of September.
She's fractured her pelvis in 2 places and it could be as long as a year before she fully recovers. Police Scotland has released a CCTV image of the vehicle they'd like to trace. Susan Ripple has this report.
With each step, Christina is trying to rebuild her life. She's a champion cyclist, but now walking to the other side of her flat is a struggle. She was knocked down by a hit-and-run driver while cycling during a training ride.
The force of it just completely wiped me out. I skidded round, I hit my head a couple of times off the ground and then ended back facing the way that I was coming, so I did a 180 to just leave me. You know, it's disgusted by it, thinking that how you could do that to someone else. I'm not just a cyclist, you know, I'm someone's sister, I'm someone's daughter, I'm someone's niece, I'm someone's auntie.
Christina spent 10 days in Forth Valley Royal Hospital. She says she was in tears for the majority of her stay because of the way she was treated. The hospital says it's willing to discuss the issues she's raised, but Christina felt staff wanted to get her home as quickly as possible, despite her concerns about living alone. When she finally got back to her flat, she says she was left to climb these stairs without any help.
I literally had to basically just suffer the pain to get every single step. The further steps were going up as well, the pain just became more and more excruciating. There was lack of communication, there was different staff that were coming in all the time, and I didn't want to be there. I wanted to be home. But I didn't feel safe to be, and it was just that awful experience of having to justify why you needed to be there.
Police Scotland has released these CCTV images of the vehicle they'd like to trace. They believe the driver may not have realised they hit Christina.
If you do recognise this vehicle, or you think you recognise this vehicle, I would ask you to contact us on 101. It's our job to try and eliminate this vehicle. We'd much rather you contacted us and the vehicle you may think it is not involved, than you potentially have information and you don't come forward.
In terms of getting on the bike, I've got no interest at the moment, because to me that doesn't matter. I just want to be able to walk without crutches, you know, to be able to sort of go from one end of the room to another unaided, to be self-sufficient again. That's my goal.
Christina's had a lot to come to terms with since the accident. It's the support from friends and family that's kept her going. Susan Ripple, STV News, Stirling.
Other stories across Scotland, and an expert panel has been appointed to carry out further investigations at Glasgow's Queen Elizabeth University Hospital as part of the Scottish Hospitals Inquiry. The independent specialists will look into issues raised by patients and families about healthcare-acquired infections. The inquiry, set up to examine concerns about water contamination and ventilation, will hear from hospital staff next June.
A Scotland-wide bird flu prevention zone has been declared amid the worst ever outbreak in the UK. Keepers will now have to follow strict biosecurity measures. More than 190 cases of the disease have been confirmed since October. Public Health Scotland says the risk to the public is still very low.
Police are appealing for information after a fatal road crash on the A78 at Inverkip. A 59-year-old man died following the incident just before 11:30 on Saturday night. The driver of the other car, a 22-year-old man, is in a serious condition.
Firefighters have spent a second day in the Tradeston area of Glasgow after a fire tore through a disused furniture store over the weekend. Emergency services were called to Kingston Street shortly before 10 o'clock yesterday morning, with large plumes of smoke being seen across the city.
King Charles has been meeting families from Ukraine, Syria and Afghanistan who are settling in Scotland. On a visit to Aberdeen, the monarch heard how government schemes are helping people fleeing from war.
Unexpected, a wonderful day, a really joyful moment. We were always watching King on TVs, and no one was thinking that one day I will meet the King. And a very wonderful day for me to meet King and have a speak with him.
It's such an honor to meet the King, His Majesty. Scotland became my second home now, and I think Scotland became second home for a lot of Ukrainians.
Beside the people beside us, he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm so sorry because you're probably shopping this morning, and you had to come down here and there's all these crowds." We were like, "Yeah."
And the fishing industry is urging the UK Environment Secretary to ensure more areas of water aren't cut off because of offshore wind turbines and protection areas. A report commissioned by the sector suggested that in the worst case scenario, around 56% of offshore areas could be closed for fishing. The Scottish Government says it's working to balance competing marine measures. Now, men are being encouraged to challenge friends when they cross the line when it comes to sexist attitudes and behaviour towards women. A new campaign by Police Scotland hopes to get young men talking about how to approach difficult conversations and take responsibility for their language and actions. It comes as more people come forward to report sexual crimes to the force. Caroline Lewis reports.
Don't be the guy that laughs along.
Don't be that guy that sees your mate doing something that he shouldn't be.
Don't be that guy. That's the message of Police Scotland's new campaign. It aims to help men speak up when friends cross the line.
It's going on, and we're just standing by letting it go on.
One of the men that appears in it is Alistair Heather, who hopes it will help other men get the confidence to pull their friends to one side.
It takes a bit of mettle to say to your pal, that's not really good behaviour. Honestly, I do think it is the lack of encouragement. You do feel a bit helpless, and you feel you're outnumbered. If there's 5 lads, one of them's misbehaving, you didn't say anything because you fear that everybody else agrees with him. But in reality, they probably all agree with you. They're probably feeling uncomfortable as well.
But Alistair says it's also forced him to admit some hard truths about himself.
You really reflect on all the wee stuff that's like, kind of not taking no for an answer when you're trying to crack onto a lassie in a pub, like all that kind of stuff. You're like, that's no just me. There's a whole culture of that woman's been experiencing her whole life. And it must be very wearing, and you just hate to realise you're part of like a force for bad, and this is a chance to kind of do something more positive.
And it's been welcomed by those who work with people affected by abuse.
We have a culture that tolerates really kind of low-level sexual harassment and misogynistic behaviour directed towards women. And I think until we tackle that, we are not going to tackle the reasons why rape is so prevalent in our society.
Over the last few years, the number of people reporting sexual crimes to Police Scotland has increased. But the force itself has come under recent scrutiny and been accused of having a systematic culture of misogyny and bullying. And when internal complaints have been made, they haven't been dealt with correctly. Which begs the question, if it's not leading by example, can it expect people to sit up and listen and for that wider culture to change? Well, Police Scotland said it's doing the work, and this campaign is as much for its officers as it is everyone else.
We want to make sure that every part of Scotland is safe,
and that includes Police Scotland as an organisation. We've taken a lot of steps to tackle misogyny and to improve sex equality over the course of the last year. If there's any behaviours or actions that are brought to our attention, we'll take swift action. We won't tolerate that.
The force says the campaign isn't about shaming, but getting men to join the conversation and stop offending before it starts. Caroline Lewis, STV News.
A memorial commemorating people who've lost their lives to prostate cancer has been unveiled in Glasgow. It's hoped it will help raise awareness of the disease, which is the most common cancer in men. And it's been welcomed by those who've lost their loved ones, as Emma Maxwell reports.
We started going out together when I was 17 and we got married when I was 21, and we were just short of our 50th wedding anniversary when he died.
When Jean's husband Walter was diagnosed with prostate cancer, it came as a shock. An active golfer, he never had a reason to go to the doctors.
He had no symptoms whatsoever, and someone said to him, go, and now that you're retired, I think you should go for an MOT every year. And then one of the times the doctor phoned him and said, your PSA, which is the prostate test, is a wee bit raised, so I think we'll do it again. And 2.5 years later he died.
Jean has been volunteering for the past 12 years, trying to help save the lives of others.
The most important thing is that men get checked and are aware, and your doctor must check you if you ask for it once you're 50.
Prostate cancer is the most common cancer in men, with around 1,000 dying from the disease in Scotland each year.
The thing with early prostate cancer is that it does not present with symptoms, and early diagnosis saves lives.
Now, a memorial which has been touring the UK has been unveiled in Glasgow.
The names of 550 husbands, sons and fathers lost all too soon are engraved on this memorial, including Jean's husband Walter.
I was a bit emotional when I see the name. Yes, I find that emotional. Hopefully a lot of people will come and look at it, and this will raise awareness as well, and that's great.
Emma Maxwell, STV News, Glasgow.
And Raman's here with all the sport.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sport, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
Good evening. Kilmarnock manager Derek McInnes has urged his players to seize their opportunity and end the club's 10-year wait of reaching a cup semi-final. Killie host Dundee United in the League Cup tomorrow night, with a place at Hampden up for grabs. Before a ball was kicked this season, one of Derek McInnes' targets was for Kilmarnock to reach a cup final. His team is just 2 wins away from achieving this. Having already beaten Premiership opposition en route to the quarter-finals, the Killie boss is calling for another big effort when his side face Dundee United tomorrow night.
I think it's important that a club like ourselves try and seize that opportunity when it's there. You know, Dundee United will be no different tomorrow night, clearly. It's a great opportunity for both clubs, but what we don't want to be doing is sitting watching Dundee United turn up in Hampden in January, watching the game on the telly. You know, we want to be there, we want to experience it, and I want my players to believe that we should be there.
Kilmarnock are in decent form going into tomorrow's cup tie. They are unbeaten in their last 3 games and were unlucky not to take all 3 points against St Mirren on Saturday.
There's still a wee feeling that in the last 2 games we could have picked up an extra 4 points. You know, 45 seconds away from beating Hearts here, and we had brilliant chances on Saturday. But you know, I think being unbeaten, tough game at Paisley, it always is, and you know, the level of performance was decent. So we now come back to being at home. We've been strong at home this season. Only Celtic have beaten us here, so it's important that we try and be exactly that again tomorrow.
Kilmarnock and Dundee United drew on the opening day of the season. Ash Taylor earned his team a point with a late equaliser.
It would be nice to finish my career with a domestic cup under my belt, but no, it's first and foremost we've got to deal with Dundee United to make sure we have that opportunity to get there.
Blair Alston is set to miss tomorrow's cup tie after picking up a groin injury at the weekend. Rangers defender Leon King admits their performance against Motherwell wasn't pretty at times, but says it was important to secure a win. Giovanni Van Bronckhorst's side took the lead early into the second half through this goal from Malik Tillman. John Lundstrom doubled the visitors' advantage in the 69th minute. Stuart McKinstry reduced the deficit by 1. It ended 2-1. Celtic manager Ange Postecoglou praised his team's performance as they thrashed Hibs 6-1. James Forrest scored a hat-trick in the rout, with Georgios Giakoumakis and Daisen Maeda also amongst the goals. What a great win that was for Scotland. Finally, rugby, and Glasgow Warriors attack coach Nigel Carolan says they'll need to learn from the defeat to Sharks when they face Lions this weekend. The Warriors once again struggled away from home, losing 40-12 in South Africa. They have now dropped to 12th in the league table. And that, folks, is all your sport tonight. I'll see you again tomorrow.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sport, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
Well, it's been very blustery out there today, but is it set to last? Here's Philip.
Hello, good evening. Well, looking back on yesterday's stats, and it was a fairly mild day with temperatures above average for the time of year. Highs of 15.3 degrees Celsius at Fyvie Castle. Not a cold night either. Drumnadrochit recording a low of 1.5 degrees, but it was fairly windy, with Stornoway recording a maximum wind gust of 54 miles per hour. What's in store for the rest of this week? Let's take a closer look. Here is the forecast.
A light drizzle is coming in from the west. TUI Blue Hotels sponsor STV Weather.
Well, as we head through the rest of this evening and overnight, we've got an area of low pressure tracking north and eastwards across the country. So to begin with, there will still be 1 or 2 showers across the west, but eventually that low pressure is dragging some of those showers with it, and they will decrease and fizzle out. And for many of us, it will be turning dry overnight with lengthy clear spells. So we could see some mist and fog patches forming in the glens, and it will allow temperatures to drop away. So a chilly night to come, particularly inland. We could see a touch of frost in rural spots, but around the coast, staying mild, lows of around 6 or 7 degrees Celsius. Looking ahead to tomorrow, a fine, decent start to the day. We've got high pressure building in from the north of the country, and that's influencing our weather. So lots of dry, sunny conditions through the afternoon. Any mist and fog that's built through the course of the evening will burn off through the course of the morning, with temperatures reaching highs of 13 or 14 degrees Celsius, so feeling a little bit warmer than the past couple of days. Looking ahead to Wednesday, a similar looking day, remaining largely fine and dry for most. The only difference is there will be a bit more in the way of cloud around. The thickest of the cloud will be across eastern areas, and we'll start to see the winds picking up strength from the southeast later on. For Thursday, unfortunately, things turning more unsettled. Milder though, thanks to the southerly airflow, so temperature-wise reaching highs of 14, but we will see some bands of heavy rain moving through the afternoon. Bye-bye.
TUI Blue Hotels sponsor STV Weather.
And that's all from us this evening. And with such a busy day in politics, Colin Mackay will bring you Scotland Tonight just after the late news at 10:30.
But from all of us here, enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.